It's fantastic to see so many of you here, to have a full room back here at the Honour Awards as we recognise so many of the unsung heroes in our communities and celebrate the strength and the resilience of our communities. We've been through a lot over the past few years. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Thomas, for welcoming us onto country so generously. I acknowledge too the traditional owners of the land and recognise particularly the ongoing strength and resilience of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as our nation prepares, as we've heard already tonight, for the upcoming referendum on the voice. As a health organisation, we've always known that advocacy efforts that are driven by those who are most affected deliver the best outcomes. Nothing about us without us, and listening is the first step in any process that affects change. At ACON, we firmly believe in First Nations self-determination. We believe First Nations people's voices and truths should inform all Australian policy that affects First Nations communities, and that such approaches need to be sustained and supported by all governments now and into the future. Regardless of the outcome of the referendum, we'll continue to support pursuit of rights, justice and equity, and we will continue to provide our support services for First Nations LGBTQ+ communities, as we will continue to celebrate First Nations culture, Black joy, resilience and strength. It's my great honour tonight to present this year's ACON's President's Award to the many advocates of justice for victims of anti-LGBTQ violence in New South Wales over several decades. For many, many years, particularly during the 80s and the 90s, but ongoing, sexuality and gender diverse people in New South Wales have felt the full force and burden of horrific hate crimes. Some lost their lives. Many of us were exposed to further pain and trauma due to slow and inadequate responses to these heinous acts. And as hate and violence gripped Sydney and New South Wales, our communities suffered with little support or action from authorities. So it was left to advocates and allies to draw attention to these atrocities and to shine a light on this dark time in our state's history. And it's only through their relentless pursuit of the truth that we are now on the long road towards justice and healing. We haven't reached the end of that road, but we're closer than we've ever been as we look towards the release of the report of the Special Commission of Inquiry into LGBTIQ hate crimes later this year. So tonight, I dedicate the ACON President's Award to all those who fought tirelessly and courageously for justice for LGBTQ hate crime victims over the many years. And shortly, I'm going to invite key advocates who've been instrumental in this endeavour. But before that, I want to acknowledge that there have been many, many others that have been part of this journey. And so I pay tribute to all who've contributed to efforts to support victims of hate crimes and all who continue to persevere in their pursuit for truth and justice. And that includes the many parliamentarians, journalists, jurists, academics, activists, legal professionals, community advocates, LGBTQ community members, groups, and allies. Representing all of those people tonight, I'd now like to invite on stage former Detective Steve Page and Duncan McNab, investigative journalist Rick Feneley and Greg Callaghan, victims advocate Peter Rolfe, Dawson Turco lawyer Nicholas Stewart, criminologist Stephen Thompson, and magistrate Jacqueline Milledge. And as I do that, I also want to acknowledge 4 people who could not be here today. Former New South Wales Police gay and lesbian client consultant Sue Thompson, activist and historian Garry Wotherspoon, Steve Johnson, who fought for justice for his brother Scott for over 30 years, and private detective Daniel Glick, who supported the Johnson family all along the way. Please give these incredible advocates a round of applause. I had to get out away from the mob for a second. So thank you to all of you for all your efforts. We know that we're not there yet, and that there's still a long way to go. But we draw strength, courage, comfort and hope in knowing that thanks to your work and to your legacy, we are going to achieve justice and healing for those who we've lost and for those who've suffered. I'd now like to invite a couple of you, I think Jackie and Greg, to say a few words. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Well, at least I wore the right colour, so I feel very comfortable. Look, I wasn't expecting to say anything, but Sue Thompson, who couldn't be here tonight because she's unwell, asked me if I would thank you all on her behalf. She wanted me to have you understand that this wasn't something that she did on her own, that she did it with all of us, that we all had a part to play. I worked with Sue when she was the loudest and the first voice for gay and lesbian issues in the New South Wales Police Force. She did a wonderful job. I was proud to be a part of her team. I used to follow her around to the schools where she'd talk to these kids about gay and lesbian issues and the need to be respectful. I don't think it penetrated on some, but it did for others. So I was proud to be part of that. If I was speaking on my own, which I suppose I can now, I would say that decades ago, an unseen enemy declared war on the gay and lesbian community. And I would say that they declared war on you, but they didn't. They declared war on all of us, because all of us were a part of it. The community let you down, the courts let you down, politicians let you down, and the police let you down. Yes, I think that should be acknowledged. I was looking at the graphics in one of the earlier awards in Bernie's Bar, and at the back it said, "Love is love." And let's not forget that this all started with Kay Warren, who lost her son Ross, who was waiting for 10 years to get a death certificate so she could deal with his affairs, and she kept writing to the police. And Stephen Page was the one who realised that this wasn't right, and he did something about it, and he started the ball rolling. Love is love. Pride is pride, and decency is decency. And whilst ever I am still working, and I still am, I can assure you I'll do everything I can not to let you down. Thank you so much for this honour.
After that wonderful spontaneous speech of Jackie's, I feel kind of rather over-prepared here. But on the stage here tonight, we have got a collection of people. A former detective, we've got former Deputy State Coroner, of course, Jacqueline Milledge, who just spoke, lawyers, journalists, historians, all galvanised into action by outrage at a great injustice. The hate crime murders of gay and transgender people dating back to the 1970s, and the frequent lacklustre response by the police, and most importantly, the lack of closure all this meant for the families and the loved ones of victims. As the recent convictions of the murders of Scott Johnson and Raymond Keane amply demonstrate, and the new compelling evidence surrounding the murder of Crispin Dye, reported by our own Jason Tomlin on ABC yesterday evening. It's worth being persistent. It's worth never giving up, for we owe it to the victims, the people who in their final moments suffer so much. As the LGBTIQ community knows from historical experience, the price of justice and equality is eternal vigilance. I'm sure I speak for everyone here when I dedicate this award to the families of the victims of hate crimes, notably Steve Johnson, a recipient of this award for his tireless search for justice for his beloved brother, but the work tracking down the killers of gay and transgender people isn't done yet. In fact, we're just beginning.